Brooks Spector, international relations expert, Neil Diamond, South African Chamber of Commerce in the United States, and Nqobile Mhlongo, EFF Head of International Relations. Good to have you all, and thank you very much for your time. Brooks, let me begin with you first and foremost. The South African government very careful in how they are navigating their language, speaking of factual accuracies. Does President Donald Trump care about being accurate in this particular matter?
Well, good to be with you and good to join other panelists. To be fair, I think the South African government, in its responses to the various items that have come along, has been very careful. And in some other places, I have said they have behaved adult-like as opposed to what might have been the case. The challenge is in trying to figure out who is driving this narrative, this effectively punitive narrative against South Africa. I mean, the law that this is currently hinging on has very limited, at least in the way it's crafted and the way it's been passed, has very limited aspects, and it has a whole range of checks and balances and a whole roster of processes. So it's not as if it's people riding into the night and driving people off of their homes and houses and the work. What I can say is that the U.S. government is in unusual territory because so much of this discussion is taking place on social media rather than in the more normal and established processes of diplomatic discussion. Normally, something like this might have been presented to the host government and say, the following things are issues that concern us, and if we don't figure out what's going on, then we will have to engage further with measures which we would not like to have to carry out, but which we will. Instead, this is all taking place on social media, and it comes up with a rather inflammatory or incendiary language in the process. And quite frankly, the idea that a special class of people, i.e. white Afrikaners, are going to have refugee status, that's going to provoke all kinds of questions when people line up for these refugee asylum visas, just exactly what constitutes an Afrikaner and a white one as opposed to, quote unquote, a brown one, or somebody who has a farm and wants to leave, and one parent is Afrikaans speaking and the other one is English speaking. I mean, the complications of this are going to drive people nuts trying to make this work, if in fact people offer themselves to claim this refugee status. Yes. My guess is very few people will do that because people are rather attached to the country, their homes, their families, their history. But the point I think that's being overlooked a little bit is that much of what Donald Trump is doing is not in fact foreign policy in that sort of standard way. This is language that's meant to convey things to his base in the United States, voters who supported him, in which he is saying to them, you see, I'm taking care of your kind of people in the U.S. and elsewhere. And elsewhere, of course, happens to be where you and I are talking right now.
Right. Neil, your statement concerned about possible migration of skills, which the country so desperately needs at this particular point. Well, from the statement we heard earlier on from AfriForum, and there are 600,000 members, they are saying they are not really interested in leaving the country. Where are these skills that you're worried about will be leaving the country?
Well, thank you, firstly, and good morning to everybody from the United States, to you and to your viewers. We are seeing a huge surge of interest in what President Trump has signed yesterday by way of an executive order. In actual fact, to the amount that during the night hours, our system crashed based on the number of inquiries we have received from people that would want further and more information on how they could be resettled to the United States. We've seen a steady migration of South Africans to various parts of the world, but specifically to the US. Especially our agricultural workers, of which we've got roughly 11,000 in 2024 that worked as temporary agricultural workers in the United States. That opens the door for them to become permanent refugees with work on farms in the United States. We believe that this may not just affect our economy in the skills base of a higher level of education, like doctors, lawyers, and accountants, but even trickles down to those farmers that provide food for our tables. This may adversely affect the food security of our country, and we express significant concern if there is a large amount of people, just out of what we've seen in the last 12 hours, that express interest in taking up this opportunity. Don't forget, we've got a very large diaspora of South Africans in the United States, predominantly from the targeted demographic, which President Trump has highlighted. And all of those have got family members, have got friends, have got extended relatives that would like to join them in the United States. I don't think that we should underplay, and it would be ill-advised to underplay the volume of people that would take up this opportunity and the economic impact that it would have on South Africa. I think the greater concern for us as business is, what is the international persona of our country? 35 years ago, the late President Jimmy Carter introduced sanctions against South Africa based on racial discrimination of the then apartheid government. For the President of the United States and the leader of the free world to use terminology like racial-based discrimination of a certain group of our citizens, more specifically singling out the Afrikaners, does not sit well. We don't want to be seen as a racist country. And we are very easy to judge certain demographics of our country as racist. Yet the leader of the free world is now pointing to our government as having racist and discriminatory practices. And he didn't just expand that in terms of land expropriation. It covered areas like education, business, and other opportunities. So if we think that only people that have got farms that were expropriated are going to be able to be eligible.
But the South African government saying that particular perception is based on a false narrative. In fact, a misinformation campaign, propaganda aimed at misrepresenting our great nation and what our policies are about.
I do not disagree with you that the concern is, where does this narrative come from? We have got our ideas, and we've made our own endeavors and attempts to ensure that the correct fact check, not fiction, is provided through channels that we have as business. But the reality is, you just need to step out of your studio and ask folks on the street. How does the ordinary people feel that are in Mpumalanga, in Northwest, in Gauteng? How do the minority communities feel about their role as citizens in South Africa? I'm hearing the terminology second-class citizens more and more. I will never like to believe that we liberated our country to have classes of citizens once again. But these perceptions are real. Yeah. And President Trump is now highlighting that on the international stage. What if our other international partners start taking heed of this in Europe and in Great Britain? These are concerns that I think we need to look at and that we need to address before we have a significant economic impact on our country.
Nqobile, I mean, what do you make of this? Minorities feeling like second-class citizens, and that's a narrative that's beginning to gain traction with international partners, including the United States and others.
Greetings to you, Thabo, the panelists, and the viewers at home. First and foremost, we are happy and that the President of the U.S. has exposed and called bluff of the minority Afrikaner group in South Africa. Now, he has offered them a refugee resettlement in America on a silver platter. Yet today, just today, a few hours ago, around about 1:30, AfriForum and Solidarity, the two biggest treasonous racist organizations in this country who were lobbying for such sanctions to be imposed against South Africa, have rejected that offer and said that they are not going to go and leave South Africa. Why? Because they know that when they go to America, they are going to become real second-class citizens. They are going to become landless hobos. And all the white privileges that they enjoy for being citizens of South Africa are going to be taken away from them. Here in South Africa, we get to be bulldozed by AfriForum, demanding only African schools at the exclusion of our children, demanding that is home language and so forth. So now Trump has exposed them, has exposed their bluff, has given them an opportunity to leave this country and go and settle there, yet they are not taking it. And Thabo, what Trump, this executive order seeks to achieve, we must view it for what it really is. Trump seeks to punish South Africa, its people, and our government for the correct and revolutionary stance we have taken against Israel and the genocide that they have orchestrated in the country of Palestine. We are being punished for having taken Israel to the International Court of Justice for their genocide act that they've committed in Palestine. Now Trump seeks to, he's clear on his executive orders that we have alienated their allies, which is Israel, and have taken them to the International Court of Justice for the crimes against humanity they've committed in Palestine. So that's what it is. Anything else is just a cosmetic way of putting it. Trump is just misinformed and really not genuine about what he stands for or what he seeks to achieve with the executive orders. I'll tell you something. If Trump was serious, he was going to reconsider the trade embargoes, trade deals that are there between South Africa and the US. First one was going to be AGOA. Why is not going there? Because he knows who are the people who will be first and foremost directly affected by those. It will be the Afrikaners who are the ones who are controlling the means of production in this country. So he's not going for them. He's not going for that. In fact, his approach is racist. He's going for the paper, for the fight against HIV and AIDS. Why? Because in the mind of Trump, HIV and AIDS in South Africa affects black people. Those are the people that he seeks to punish because the government, the Sixth Parliament of South Africa, took a resolution to expel the embassy of Israel from our country and to take Israel to the International Court of Justice. That's what it is. Anything else is just a lie. And AfriForum and their 600 members, they've just declared less than 2 hours ago that they are not going anywhere. They don't want to become less robust.
Let's leave it there. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time. Brooks Spector, Neil Diamond, as well as Nqobile Mhlongo there, and their views this afternoon.